So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's conversation on NFTs. We're going to try to go quite into depth into the subject, but we're going to start off quite simply just to give more background so that even those who haven't explored the topic too much yet, they can start to learn something new. And today I will be speaking to gallerist Olga Temnikova, who's a co-creator of Mutagen project as well, and an NFT collector and co-creator of Mutagen, Edgar Aronov. And I will be moderating this discussion myself. My name is Justė Jonutytė. I'm an art historian, curator, and art advisor. So just to give you a little bit more of the background for today's talk, it is a part of the Lubin Art Foundation exhibition at the International Contemporary Art Fair Art Vilnius, which is entitled How Soon is Tomorrow? Collecting the NFTs. And all of today's speakers are co-curators of this exhibition, as well as Ugne and Giedra from the Lubin Art Foundation. And this exhibition is a way for the Lubin Art Foundation to reflect on the current issues of today's art market, a wish to initiate discussion on this topic in the Lithuanian contemporary art field. And at the same time, it's an experiment for which the Lubin Art Foundation introduces NFTs to their collection for the first time. The exhibition displays NFTs from 3 private collections. So the first NFTs acquired by the Lubin Art Foundation, those by the Estonian collector Edgar Aronov, who's with us today, and another Estonian collector who chose to be presented only under his nickname. And the audience can also ask us questions, and there are 2 main ways for which you can ask us questions. So one is if you're in the fair right now, if you're in Art Vilnius, you can just grab a microphone at some point and maybe after we speak, ask something. Or all throughout the conversation, you can just ask your question in the comments section under the Facebook Live, and we'll be happy to answer them. So now, after we made a little introduction on the context and moving to the discussion, I do have some questions for you guys. So the NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, it is really an iconic word or a term of 2021, at least in the art world for sure, but I think even more broadly, most of us have heard of NFTs, even if we work outside of the arts or the crypto worlds. And even though they have been around for a few years now, the knowledge about NFTs really grew substantially this year. And at the beginning of the year, we started to hear more about them on certain platforms like the Clubhouse, like Twitter. And then maybe in late January or early February, we started to see some articles in the art press reflecting on them. And then most of the people really heard about them after this inclusion of Beeple's work every day, the first 5,000 days at the Christie's auction, which did end up selling for a huge amount of money, $69 million around, including tax. And it did become the 3rd most expensive work sold by a living artist. So this happened in March, mid-March. And after that, everyone really started to hear about it. So to begin our conversation, I have 2 questions for you, Edgar. So the first is maybe you can explain a little bit to those in the audience who are not too familiar with the term NFT, what it is, and later if you could just give us a little bit more about your first encounter with NFT and how you started to get interested in it.
Yeah, sure. So very good question. So the first question to what does it mean, or what's the NFT term stands for? So to keep it simple, it's a token technically, and it's a token of ownership. So you can create an NFT out of anything. So I can take my mobile phone, and I can put to the contract that anyone who holds a token then owns this mobile phone. So it's like an ownership in a way. And now with NFTs, as we know them in art, it also has a media attached to it. So it's, if I own the NFT, inside that token, there is a link to the image or to the asset. And then you can easily verify that you own the ownership of it. That's your NFT, you hold it, and you can send it, like transact with it, and so on. And like when I first heard about this, I've been in the crypto space for a while, and I already heard some people talking about NFTs in like 2017 and 2018, but it was a really small thing by then. It was mostly by like very niche crypto, like advanced crypto people who were like talking about this. And I've bought some stuff in 2018, really experimental stuff. So nothing that's been like, nothing that's very famous right now. But I started getting more into it around like last year, when like more projects came out, but it was still a very niche thing by then. But what changed was that this year in February, it started to like explode like in a massive way. Like a lot of projects started coming out, investors started speculating with it. So, and it just like grew. And then we had the people sale for like 69 million, which again, like brought so much attention to it. And like I started to like, I didn't collect them so much at the beginning of this year, but like starting from February, I started to like ramp up my interest in it. And by now, I will say that around like 90% of my activities in crypto right now are NFT related, because it's probably one of the fastest growing sectors in the crypto space in general. And it's also the first vertical in crypto which attracts non-crypto people into it. Like before, it was mostly like finance people or like developers who are active in crypto. But this is the first time where we see that people who don't care about Ethereum, don't care about Bitcoin, they start using the technology because like they want the NFTs. So it's really amazing to see that.
Thanks, Edgar, for this introduction. Very interesting to hear about the beginning for you. Olga, I do have a similar question for you, but it's very interesting for me to hear from the perspective, of you as an art professional. What was your first reaction? Because I do know that quite a lot of art professionals were, first of all, quite skeptical, about NFTs, and did consider it a bit of an amateur field to begin with. So did you immediately see potential of it, or did it come with time and experience? If you could share a little bit.
Well, I've heard about NFTs before I encountered Edgar, but and Edgar taught me to talk softly about it. So I would say, that when I think it was some of our Discord collectors who were saying that Hashmasks was this project which inspired me so much. And he said that basically Hashmasks project mentioned in one online Edgar's interview was definitely inspiring for entire generation of creators, I think, because it felt very simple and very successful, and inspired a lot of people in art that, well, if this works, we could, build on this. So I think it was kind of big focus of Edgar's interview, which I've heard in February, where he was explaining the architecture of this Hashmask project. You can Google it if you want. Yeah, but most inspiring, of course, was still encounter with Edgar, and just the way he was talking about NFTs. I just recognized the collector in him immediately. And someone very and a good collector, someone who's curious, who's investing his time, who's thinking along, collector of a type I'd like to have around. So it took me maybe a week before I contacted him after seeing that online interview. And yeah, I guess it was a messy answer, but I think I got it right.
So then this kind of connection between the two of you and this conversation about NFTs really developed into something quite substantial too. So to quote you, you say, we absolutely made art history with it by creating the first curated NFT collection with institutionally established young artists, cutting edge infrastructure, and literally creating a new medium for artists. And of course, last but not least, it did sell out in just 3 hours and made approximately 1.4 million US dollars. So can both of you share a little bit more about the Mutagen project, which is really, as you say, it did make art history, right? So from both of your perspectives.
Yeah, well, I guess crypto is such a closed space still, no matter that the people are flocking in to buy NFTs. So things take time before they get mainstream. So yeah, well, our general idea with Edgar was bringing together this two audiences or two values, let's say, crypto people, crypto natives, people who look out for new experiences and new things to invest in, and invest both financially and mentally. And we wanted to just bring in new quality, meaning that a lot of tokens so far, even by now, are produced by designers and even called design. Like, for instance, generative art. If you go to the most selling platform of that, they call it design. And we thought maybe we could start bringing in some institutional artists. And of course, it was usual suspects to go for the generation of so-called post-internet artists, who I already worked with. And yeah, and Edgar was very inspired by the content I was showing him. And yeah, basically, it just sparked, sometimes it just happens. It was kind of miraculous. I mean, really, because everyone we invited or shared our thoughts with, they were really supportive, and it was like a card house, but not falling down, but building up. Maybe Edgar can tell his perspective.
Yeah, so from my side as well, that we mostly wanted to bring something new, to create value in introducing something new to the NFT space as well. And before there has been some artists playing around with NFTs. Most of the collections have been done by illustrators or by designers. So yeah, we thought that it would be a good idea to bring something new into the space. And in this case, it was that let's bring institutionally artists to the NFT space and onboard them, teach them, show them how the NFT space works, and also show to the NFT collectors what can be done with these types of artists. And we also did technically the project is a bit different. So they're mutating artwork, so the collector can mutate it. So pretty much whatever we did, we were thinking, okay, so what value can we bring here by with experimentation and so on. But yeah.
You did mention an interesting term here, mutating artworks, and it does remind me of these almost surrealist, exquisite corpse that they used to, draw for example, like a head and then fold it, and then somebody else, draws, arms, and then, the artist doesn't really know how the artwork ends up. So how does it work in case of NFTs? How does this mutation work, and how does this collector, affect this mutation?
Yeah, so there are different ways how NFTs can mutate. In our case, so how it worked was that each artist created like Genesis NFTs. So if you have, if you have one Genesis NFT, then the artist had to create many different variations of it. So each artwork had 4 layers, and each layer had 4 variations, which means that each Genesis artwork has 256 different like states it can mutate into, like different versions. And in our case, it's how it works that if I hold the Genesis artwork, then I can trigger a mutation using like Ethereum blockchain. I can trigger a mutation, and then the artwork changes pretty much. Like I don't have to change that if I don't want to, but I can trigger some like mutations. So it kind of gives some like imagination room for the collector as well.
Yeah, that's definitely a very interesting aspect of it. And it did sell out, like this collection did sell out in 3 hours. So who are these buyers? Do you have like a new generation of buyers for these works, or are the traditional collectors also getting involved? So
I think it's mainly still crypto natives. I think among traditional collectors, there are probably 5, literally out of around 600. I cannot really explain that, but I mean, yeah, of course I can, because it's just a new medium. I think even for Lubin Foundation, it took a couple of weeks to to get ready with their wallet. Yeah, I guess if we would do the same thing in a year time, the proportion would be different. But that's what we were expecting. I mean, it was this is what we really wanted to do, and I know those collectors anyway. But this new crypto people, this is what excites me.
And also, what's like a thing to note is that the crypto collectors it's like a different breed, kind of, or like a different audience. So although it's still like art, but it's totally different audience in a way. Like a lot of NFT collectors are. So we do see a spillover of people who started collecting NFTs, and now they've started also to collect like traditional artworks, like non-NFTs. But yeah, it's a very close community, and it's usually with most NFT collections, it's usually like 95% at least like NFT collectors who are like buying these. But it's changing slowly, but it's still like a bit like a different world, like separated worlds, and they also have different frameworks. So like frameworks that you have in NFTs might not apply in the art world, and vice versa. So it's yeah, but they're slowly like coming together in a way.
Exactly. So about what you mentioned, that it does have like slightly different rules. I did see how you quoted, like writing about this exhibition, which you co-curated at the Lubin Art Foundation. You do mention, to quote you, a successful collection is the work of not just an artist, but also programmer and a community manager. It involves proper marketing, and in a way, it's even reminiscent of a startup. And from what I understand, like this communication aspect is really ultimately like extremely important in this field. And in a way, I understand it really affects the future value of the work or of the project. So can you elaborate a little bit on that, why it's so important in this community?
Sure. We also need to keep in mind that there are different types of NFT projects. So you have like one-off NFT, like artworks, which is just like one artwork and it's not a like entire collection. Like there, like this is like probably more similar to how the art world works. But if you have like, for example, right now, very popular trend are like profile picture artworks, so like illustrations. And you usually have like 10,000 of these and inside the collection. And there it's like a startup. So you have like, you have developers, you have a whole team managing it all. So it resembles more like a startup than just like an artist doing something. Like mutagen is somewhere like in the middle. So we're not like this type of like a PFP, like profile picture type of stuff where, and we're not like one-off artwork. So we're somewhere in the middle. But like if we talk about the rules or the frameworks, like a good example, I think here is the generative art as an example. So like in the NFT space, generative art is very highly valued. But if you look at it like from the art world, like they don't usually like, they don't see the value like so much as the NFT collectors. But like what, for example, with the generative art, so what are the values, the rules in the NFT space are that it's on-chain generated, which means that the artist gives away the control of the outcome. So this is like one part. And also like fairness, because like they cannot choose who can buy this. They cannot give like a rare NFT from the collection to someone they know, but it's all automated on the Ethereum blockchain. Now, this is like a value that's something that's very highly valued. But yeah, just there are like, and if you take the profile pictures as well, like if you like, still like not many art like experienced art people, they don't like see it, they don't like see the art in it, they don't value it so much, but it's mostly because there's a lot more behind that. And yeah, I haven't seen the NFT collectors like holding on too much from the like for the like art frameworks in a way, but everyone's experimenting and yeah, just like having fun in a way.
I'd like to add to that. I was recently just, of course, here at Freeze chatting away with people about NFTs and quoting one of collectors, our common friend with Edgar, who said that, well, you know, CryptoPunks, it's a status thing. And I was discussing with my colleagues who usually are much smarter than me, and I was like, so if we take brand out of status, what does stay? You know, what is status? And then you get to it that it's like brand, right? And in arts, if you think about art criticism, being a brand is something not so, I mean, it can have a positive connotation, but in generally it's something, a commodity, right? So some artists are brands and they're not, that fact is not considered of a value because somehow art should be free. But I think for new generation of collectors, they look at art somehow differently. So I think that, yeah, these worlds are definitely merging. The time of flipping is being shorter and shorter, even in the traditional art world, and people are asking straight questions. The transparency of prices is there, and no guilt is there. And yeah, okay, well, maybe you have suitable questions, so I can give my pitch in that direction later on. I rest my case.
Thank you, Olga, for sharing these, because they are very interesting insights, you know, about the differences of NFTs and how it's different from other collectors. I did want to ask you also about like these differences and what the NFT maybe brings into the art world somehow, because, you know, we could see that, it does bring some democratization, and some transparency maybe to the sales, and you can openly, look up the price of the artwork. Or for example, like a thing that's quite different maybe from traditional sales in arts is that like usually an artist will continue to receive a percentage of the sale with every resale of the work, which is, it does happen in auctions sometimes, but not in all cases, whereas it's, a very often encountered phenomenon with NFTs. So do you think some of these aspects that the NFTs are bringing in, like, are they going to affect the traditional art market in a way? Do you see that it could potentially somehow affect regular sales?
Well, according to the law, artist has to get percent of the after sales of his work, and it's not only auction, but definitely it's very hard to trace those sales. And I think according to the law, one side of the deal has to be a dealer or a gallery. So like if, for instance, there are two private people and there is a sale, then the law is not being applied. And in NFT world, if this thing is built into the contract, it should happen, right, Edgar? Like if, yeah. So in that sense, it's a great tool, of course, but there are so much more, I must say, to
please share. My question was really open in terms of any aspects, not necessarily just the ones I mentioned. So,
or maybe, maybe on technical side, Edgar is better to talk about it. But really, so far, there are so many conditions you can write into the contract, like. For instance, just recently I was talking to a future head of Philips NFT sales, and he was talking about an artwork which will destroy itself if the climate change, or like this sort of average temperature being measured, will go above particular level, or some NFTs which are connected to like person's yearly income, and something like he has to pay from his yearly income. So it's like you can really put any conditions, and they work. It's like clockwork things. You just have to come up with them, and you have to have them under your skin. So in a way, I'm very inspired, but I'm like really on the edge of being millennial. I'm flattering myself, but I think like this new generation of artists who are like internet natives and crypto natives, they will be applying this in an amazing way, which will completely change the art world. I'm sure that other mediums will stay, and people need to be connected to their body. It has to be something on the wall. We will still have a place to live and meet, but then there is this another dimension. Yeah, but maybe Edgar, for sure, you can bring in some juicy examples.
Yeah, you had a pretty good point with the Philips NFT discussion, and like what like blockchains are, or what Ethereum is it's a commitment chain pretty much. So you can add commitments on crypto, and these commitments cannot be broken anymore. So like if you write there that, for example, like there's for example an NFT, like what you can do with NFT is that you can create an artwork, and then you can add a commitment through the code that every time it's being sold, it's gonna like destroy itself a little bit, like in a way. So there is, for example, that every time you sell it, it's gonna a little bit like destroy itself, and then like if it's being flipped or like resold enough times, then the artwork is completely destroyed. Like for example, you can add such commitments into it, and once you add it, no one can change it anymore. The like program runs it automatically. Like royalties are another example. Like technically, so you can add like royalties. So every time it's being resold, artist gets a royalty automatically. There's like no one has to like do it like manually. The system does it all itself. And so there are like a lot of, through that there's a lot of like experimentations on that side, but what else could I add? And like also with the fact, like, I think there's gonna be like both. So the artwork, the art world as we have right now, and the NFT, like the digital art, I think they're gonna like exist together. And also like a lot of new people, they don't even want physical artwork so much. Like they even prefer, like if I look at NFT collectors, they prefer like 100% digital art. They don't even want the physical version. And like a lot of people say here that, hey, like if I buy something, I want to put it on my wall. I want to show it to my friends. I want to like touch it in a way. But if you think of it, so if you buy an artwork to like for the reason to like show others, either as a like a status game or like just because you like the art and you want to show it to others, like if it's physically in your home, then there aren't a lot of people who you can show it to in a way. Like they have to come to your home and then they can see it, or you can show it in a gallery somewhere. But if you have a digital artwork, then like millions of people can see it and you still own it. You can verify that it's yours. You can put it to a Twitter profile, or you can make like a digital gallery. So it's in a way, it's like a lot more scalable. And plus you don't have to deal with the shipping, verifying if that's a fake, if that's a real one, which also probably isn't very, very easy in some sense. So it removes a lot of the friction and makes it scalable, and also it brings a lot liquidity, which I think is the biggest like power that NFTs has. Like it has a lot of liquidity. Like if I want to sell an NFT, I can just list it right now with the current market price, and chances are that it's gonna be gone like within hours, and I have the money on my hand. But if you have like the physical piece attached to it, then it's like a lot more complicated to resell it. So I don't believe that NFTs will cross over with traditional art so much that people start tokenizing like non-NFT art, which also has a physical piece. I don't believe this has a lot of potential, but yeah, and this is all like very young. It's a very young market still, and a lot of experimentations going on, and no one really knows like where it's going to end up and how it's going to like work together with the non-NFT art world.
Yes, it's a very good case. And also like going a bit from theory to practice. So you did mention, throughout our conversation, some of these things that, other collectors appreciate about this field and collecting NFTs. And you did mention, generative art or avatars. In your personal collection, does it have a focus? What are you interested to acquire? Because we have seen a few of your works in the exhibition at the Lubin Art Foundation, but more broadly, what interests you as a collector of NFTs?
Yeah, so I collect mostly what I consider is important across all sectors. And like, of course, like the most important are historical pieces. So you take CryptoPunks as an example, which has like probably the highest historical value in NFTs in general. And like Mooncats is another example, which also has historical value, which launched like in a similar time that the CryptoPunks did. So yeah, so one part is the like historical NFTs. I do have some generative art, and because like I visually like this, and again like generative art is like again like very important like NFT profile. And but the most I probably have like avatars or like profile pictures in a way, and it might sound a bit funny, but but this is what's gotten the most traction amongst the entire NFT space for like several reasons. And one reason is that it kind of people relate to it a lot more, and it has some like emotional attachments added to it. And plus I come from like a startup background, so I kind of feel like a lot more at home with this, because like they have like development teams, they have like roadmaps. I kind of like understand how they operate. But yeah, like to sum it up, historical NFTs right now, generative art, profile pictures. I do have some one-off artworks as well, not like collections, but from artists doing individual artworks. But yeah, I collect a lot of different fields, so it's mostly what I consider important, and usually the important things get like quite a lot of traction. And I also think it's important to keep your portfolio hygiene like in a good state. So like if you consider yourself as a strong NFT collector, you need to have some historical NFTs. Like otherwise, if you're saying that you're like a experienced, strong like NFT collector, but for example you don't have CryptoPunks or you don't have like Mooncats, which are like affordable, then it kind of like I wouldn't say that it's a good like hygiene in a way. That like if you're in the space and you have the opportunity to like buy the blue chips in a way, then like one must hold them.
A footnote: historic work is around 3 years old. All right. CryptoPunks are around 3. Yes.
Yep.
Just
yep.
like I think it's an interesting
yeah.
fact.
Good point. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yep.
That's a very good point to put into some perspective. And where does one buy an artwork? Because I know there are a lot of like platforms. So, what do you both recommend? Like, for example, where did you buy your first works, and which platforms do you recommend? And then for Olga, maybe it's a question also later about like galleries, and because especially like this year I have seen Kane Gallery launch a new platform, Misa, for NFTs, and the pace is getting into this, and your galleries. So like, do you see that NFTs will more and more will be available for sale at galleries? So
I'll let Edgar speak first and then add my bitter words.
Okay, great.
Okay, yeah, so there are different galleries where one can buy NFTs. Like the most popular one is OpenSea, OpenSea.com. And OpenSea has probably like 95% of the market share. So it's dominating right now. That's the main place where that's the main marketplace where you can buy and sell NFTs. There are a lot of new players coming out. For example, Coinbase recently announced that they're launching their NFT marketplace. And there are like a few more. It's technically like there are a ton of marketplaces, but yeah, OpenSea is the leader for like various reasons. But it's probably gonna change in the following like months and years and so on. And yeah, so OpenSea.com is probably the but a good when I'm mentioning OpenSea, it's also probably important to mention that OpenSea has a lot of fake collections as well. So like if you're buying something from OpenSea, like do consult with someone because there's a lot of situations where someone buys something and it's a fake collection. And like the downside is that there are a lot of fake collections there, but that's the reason, like the technical reason why it's so is the reason why OpenSea is so powerful, is that whenever someone creates a new NFT on Ethereum, then it's automatically on OpenSea. There's like no curation, nothing. It's like automatically on the marketplace. People can start buying and selling it. And for that reason, there are like a lot of fake artworks there as well.
Yeah, OpenSea, it's just the name says it all. It's just there. And yeah, if you're talking about the galleries chipping in, yeah, I mean, I'm very excited about it, and we really need more institutional players there. But yeah, so far, I think our project had one of the best advisors. because if we still think about crypto natives being the force behind record sales and so on, then I think institutional art organizations are still figuring it out. Like each time there is a drop of I don't know, digital freeze or pace or even Koenig, there is always of course this conversation. We get into the psychology thing and they're trying to greenwash somehow, and like no one is getting too deep into it, and I see there are a lot of mistakes being made from the perspective of a professional buyer, like professional crypto buyer. Well, I can see it only basically through Edgar's eyes because he has a very good eye for it. But yeah, I think it's a little bit clumsy so far, but I'm sure they will get it right sooner or later. And you can see extreme activity on the auction side. I also see a lot of criticism on crypto side about how auctions are displaying NFTs. We are so happy how Luben Foundation has designed, or the architects of Luben Foundation, architect partners. I think this is what Christie should do. But yeah, I guess in a year time we will see something completely different, because the speed of this area and the way people learn is it's high. Yeah, if you understand that historic work is 3 years old, then yeah, you imagine the speed of it.
And Olga, do you have any kind of advice for those, trying to buy their first NFTs? Like, for example, if the general rules or do's and don'ts of the art world, how do you navigate, the sales of NFT, how not to get, lost, and what are some of the factors to look into, maybe also to avoid these, fake collections, as Edgar mentioned?
I think you should follow everyone Edgar follows on Twitter, and then try to see what's going on. And of course, after that, buy what you like. But that works for both worlds.
Yeah, this is what I want to say as well, that so much is changing in the NFT world, is moving very fast. People are behind their screens pretty much 14 hours per day, every day, just to keep up with what's happening in NFT space. And if you're away for 1 week, you already don't know what's happening in that space. So it's the one thing is to try to verify if what you're buying is the right item and it's not a fake thing in a way. But the number one rule, yes, Olga told, was that buy what you like. You cannot go wrong with that as a starting point. And then try to understand what you're buying. Like if you take CryptoPunks, for example, that don't buy it because, I don't know, the price goes up. But if you're buying it, try to understand why you're buying it. Is it the historical value, or if you want to get the status game that you want to add the punk to your Twitter profile or something. And then try to not FOMO too much, or fear of missing out. The space has a lot of this. People quickly buy things hoping that, okay, maybe it's gonna go up in price. Everyone's talking about this, and they're buying it just because they hope to get 5 times more money back in 1 week or something. This is a good way to get hurt.
Yeah, hold on to your work. So first learn about the project, see how it works, learn who made it. I mean, just take your time. But of course, everything is just so fast that people sometimes they understand the dynamics of it when they've already bought it. But yeah, I guess those are the normal investment rules. Don't overinvest, don't invest more than you can afford to lose, and yeah. Because it's still I mean, those things are expensive to think about. Most of them are. I think all the good things are. Yeah, I think it's quite surprising for crypto people to chip into normal art, because normal art is relatively cheaper, actually. The prices in crypto are insane.
Yeah, it's very true. And yeah, really great pieces of advice from both of you. It is important to buy what you love, but also for those who are looking into NFTs as a potential, form of investment, do you recommend this field? Like, is it, a good financial investment potentially, or it's still a bit too early to say? What are your thoughts?
It's full-time job. That's the thing. Like, if you really want to do it right, it's like either you have to have a great advisor. I don't know why would that person give you advice, of course, and how much you pay that person. But it's definitely like people who I know, they said that since they are on Ethereum, like things are not the same, and it's very social media driven. It's very fast. Things are changing very fast, and if this is something what you like, then just do it. But otherwise, yeah, maybe there are other things to invest in. Maybe just get a job. Anyways, yeah, maybe Edgar has something smarter to say.
Yeah, it's a full-time job. I totally agree with that. But like NFT space is a very young market. So okay, so the NFT started off like 3 years ago or so, but it started getting like into a decent size just like a half a year ago or so. So it's still like a very young market. So if you have the energy, if you have the time, the curiosity, and the hunger in a way, then it's a very good place to to invest, because in every new market there are a lot of inefficiencies. So there are a lot of opportunities because still not many like great investors are active in the space. So and because it has like new markets do have like a lot of inefficiencies at the beginning, it means that there are a lot of opportunities that one can take. So the only thing that you need to do is just put in the hours, like research, work with it like every day, and you will be ahead of like 98% of other NFT collectors pretty much. So it's very time consuming, but it has a lot of opportunities. And also you need to understand where do you stand. So if you want to be like an active NFT collector, then you need to put like in a lot of time. If your main goal is that you see that, okay, that NFTs are like NFTs is the future, and like you want to be exposed to that, then you don't probably have to do like too much. Like you can buy like CryptoPunk or like some other like historical stuff, because these are like NFTs is a very risky bet, but these are like less riskier than other NFTs, because chances are if the NFT is here to stay, which I strongly believe it is, then like CryptoPunks aren't like one of the first collections, like it isn't going anywhere. So so if you have like a long enough time frame, then like it's a lot less riskier than others. But when I'm now naming some collections names here and so on, I also have to say that crypto markets are extremely volatile. So you need to keep that in mind. It like prices can drop like 50% like within 1-2 days, like easily. Like, but if you know what you bought, why you bought it, you have a conviction, and you have a long time frame, then you should be okay.
So maybe touching up on that, my last question to both of you before we do open up for any questions in the audience, if there are any, is how you see like the future of NFT, because you did mention, there are some fluctuations, in terms of, the value, like the financial value of the works, maybe not the art historical value, but like in the future, how do you envision NFTs, like what are going to be the main changes? Is it already a part of art history, or is it yet to prove, its place in it? So what are your final thoughts about the future of NFTs?
Well, they're for sure there to stay because it's just too exciting tool. I'm sure that institutions will follow, meaning that museums will look into it more. The more artists there will be, the more institutions will join. Here's a new token being born. I'm speaking. Я говорю. Подарок, спасибо. And yeah, I mean, it's just one of the most inspiring encounters in the art world I have had within last 5 years, I think. So it's big. It's a big compliment. So, but I wonder what's Edgar's perspective? What's the crypto perspective on NFTs?
Yeah, it's in my opinion, it's definitely it's here to stay. But yeah, that's a good question. Like no one really knows exactly where it's gonna go in a way. Like right now, a big trend is like game specific NFTs, so that like collectibles or artworks that you can use inside games. So the gaming area is definitely like a big market. There's also like the metaverse sector that's getting a lot of like traction right now. So like in virtual worlds where you can like meet with other people and like show your artwork and so on, artworks. But I think the biggest like NFTs are enabling it's pretty much like a programmable art, and like blockchain and crypto, Ethereum especially, enables a lot of technical functionalities that weren't possible before. So we will see a lot of experimentations on that side, but where it's exactly gonna be, like no one really knows. We just know that there's a lot of innovation here. A lot of young and bright minds are experimenting, building new solutions, pushing the boundaries of like the art content. And that's, for me personally, that's all I need, like to know that it's gonna grow a lot, because the sector that gathers the most brilliant minds is usually like turning out pretty well. But yeah, it wasn't probably like an easy answer as maybe you were hoping for, but unfortunately there isn't an easy answer here. If there would be an easy answer, then everyone will already be invested into it, and there will be a lot less opportunities.
No, to be honest, I'm quite, happy about your response, because, there's no easy, answer about the future. We're just speculating. So it's just really interesting to hear, your opinion and the factors that will be determining it. So great. So we do have like a couple more minutes, and we do have like question in the audience so far. So Martinas is asking us, how do I promote my NFTs? Do you guys have any advice? Olga, for example, or Edgar?
I think it's the same as in art. It's like you have to know it has to be good content, and then you have to know right people. So people, at least influencers, should know that you've got some good stuff. That's about it. I guess the information moves really fast in the digital age. So yeah, you just have to know who's your audience and make sure the people who influence that audience, they will chip in.
Yeah.
Tommy Cash just messaged me.
Yeah, and I will say that like the NFT space, the good side here, it isn't very hard to reach the collectors, because they're all mostly in Twitter. Like the entire NFT discussion is happening in Twitter, and all the collectors are there. So you need to follow the right people, and you, if you have something to share, like have some patience. At the beginning, usually, like if no one knows you in the NFT space, it might be a bit like slow, but just be persistent, constantly like create content, and connect with other like collectors through Twitter, and by time like you will get there. But yeah, number one thing is Twitter. Like that's like without that, it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, for you to share your artworks. And like a good person, a good example is that if you look at the Twitter profile of Nathan Head Photo, like it's one word, at Nathan Head Photo, then like this is a very good example. So I think he's like he's doing like an extremely good job of engaging with the collectors. Now he has like quite a large audience already, and people know him. But like he went to Twitter, wrote like a big thread on who he is, what does he produce, why he's here, and he's like every day it's just engaging with the collectors and pushing his artworks as well. And this is like a good example of like a successful entry to the NFT space.
Thank you for your answer. I'm sure the person is now getting an active Twitter account. We do have a few more questions. I'm not sure we have time of all of them, so let's just answer maybe a couple more until 5 p.m.
I just do a footnote before you ask next. Tommy wrote that like million people are tagging him in Vilnius with his with his mutagen there. I'm saying it's good, I guess.
Just another hour of the fair left, so yeah. So we have a question from Alberta. Thank you for your insight. It was mentioned in the discussion that it does not seem like NFTs market would be developing towards tokenizing the traditional artworks. How about the time-based art forms, however, for example, performance art? Also, from your personal perspective, how does NFT influence the perception of contemporary art ownership? Do you think it positively liberalizes the market, or rather simply eliminates the curatorial expertise, which usually plays a role in art collecting? Thank you. So
well, I don't like the last question. I will start with last because I already forgot the first.
Yeah, so I'll repeat just the beginning. So it was about this idea, how it doesn't seem like the NFTs market would be developing towards tokenizing the traditional artwork. So how about the time-based art forms?
Well, I think that's easy. I think you can tokenize anything and anything can be NFT, and it will sell for a lot of money if it's viral enough, if it's good enough, if it's promoted right. But with removing the experts, removing the gallerists or curators from the deals, I think that's actually the hard bit in collecting right now, and that's why we became friends with Edgar, because it really lacks expertise, systematic expertise. There, like, look at the historic books being written about those tokens. So in a way, that's why it's so. Right? That's why it's so kind of almost random. Well, there is a system, but so I think there will always be that layer of experts, advisors, and influencers. I mean, influencers are kind of curators of the space in a way. So I hope that those influencers will just get wiser and more experienced, and hope we will be able to get to them. The system will stay, because the infrastructure needs players, it needs strength, it needs IQ, and we'll get there. But maybe Edgar
and
thinks different.
And that's that's very good. And as for the time-based like art, this is getting like a bit more attention now. So you have like some audio, like Euler Beats is one example, and there's some more experimenting with NFTs that are just like kind of music. There are definitely a lot of like GIFs, so like moving images in a way. Videos, not so much yet, but it will come. So just currently like the biggest demand are for like still artworks, but for like time-based, there are already some. The market is heading that way. Probably a little bit of too early yet, but like it can change like either like in a few months or in a year or whatever. No one really knows, but it's definitely heading that way as well.
And like, do you think it eliminates the curatorial expertise, you know, or do you think it positively liberalizes the market? Like, what are your thoughts on this part of the question?
Yeah, good question. I'm not sure, to be honest. Like what Olga told, that like kind of all the like Twitter personalities and like the famous collector, like they may be like kind of curating also a bit. But yeah, it's difficult to say. Like right now, if I look at most of the NFT collectors, like it's mostly just buying things they like, and it's like it's a very difficult question. I'm not sure how to answer that. I don't know myself as well, but it's very independent still. Like collectors, like for example, I haven't seen there are some traditional art establishments who are like curating as well and so on, but like Christie's is doing like a lot of work in that, like Sotheby's now as well. But they're doing it because there's a lot of money in that. Like they get like a ton of sales, and it makes sense for them to do that. But the NFT world, like they don't need that. Like it's not something that NFT collectors or the creators are pushing themselves, because there's enough money in the NFT space that it's not necessary. And it's usually the curation happens if someone has enough power or enough like a big enough audience that they can earn from that. But yeah, like it's not necessary to the NFT space like at all. But yeah, I'm not sure if I answered that.
When it grows bigger, because it does grow, and you need to navigate it. And
Yeah,
you should
true.
have some parameters, what's good and what's bad. And so far,
Yeah,
it cannot just be viral, you know, like it cannot be just one parameter. So all kind of,
yeah.
I mean, cool architecture. I mean, now you can still choose. I guess if it gets bigger, then there will be a lot of cool things, and then you're gonna be completely lost. Like, and we are already lost in OpenSea, as you mentioned. So.
Mm-hmm.
Great. It would be amazing to continue, and we do have a few more questions. Sadly, we just ran out of time, as it's been just an hour. So thank you both so much for your conversation today. And yes, thank you for audience for asking the questions and participating. If you want, you can continue your questions and
in Twitter.
Exactly, on Twitter. Let's all go to Twitter and exchange some thoughts. So thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Justė. Thank you, Edgar. Thank you, Ruben Foundation. Ciao.